Yeah, we are live and hello. What's up, everyone? I'd like to welcome everyone joining us from all around the world for this special audio edition of the OCD Acceptance event. It's the fifth event hosted by OCD Acceptance. OCD Acceptance is the platform to help bring OCD patients closer to mental health professionals and advocates. And twice a month, I will host a live event just like this one and inviting mental health professionals and advocates to share their experiences and insights of living with OCD. On this episode, I'd like to introduce Ali Greymond to you. Ali Greymond has been helping people overcome OCD. She has recovered from OCD herself, and now she's helping others recovering using her method. And remember, if you want to ask questions for the Q&A session after the talk, you are more than welcome to. If you are using YouTube to watch this talk, please click on the banner that says "Be part of the conversation." Then you can ask questions. In the end of the talk, I will ask your questions directly to Ali. And therefore, let's welcome Ali to talk about OCD recovery process and what you can do to speed up the results. So there you go.
So hi everyone, my name is Ali Greymond, and today I want to talk to you about how OCD starts, how it continues, how it develops, and then the main part of it is what we can do to speed up the results and to get results. Um, if you are not sure about who I am, I have recovered from OCD myself, and for the last, I believe, about 6 years, I've been helping other people recover as well. And in my recovery program, the results are almost always full recovery. Not always, because different people react differently, but I would say in about we're talking about 90%, 95% full recovery. So let me start by going over how OCD begins, and then we can go from there. So usually, what happens is when the child's about maybe 8 years old, somewhere there, five maybe at the earliest probably, but 8, 10, the child starts to experience sudden need to count things like in a specific way. They get very anxious. A lot of the time it has to do with, well, if I don't do this certain thing perfectly, something will happen to my parents. That is kind of a very common thing for kids to worry about, and it can get to an OCD level. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just mild, and it kind of stays mild, but it is still noticeable that the child gets anxious about it. Then as the person starts to continues on through their life, they become teenagers. When they're teenagers, it starts to be more noticeable, but I always see it going from time to time. So and now that with the same thing happened with me, that from time to time for me, it was that I would get a thought, get obsessed about it, do compulsions, then it would go away, and maybe for years I wouldn't have anything, right, as a teenager. And I find that generally as a young adult, so from anywhere from, like, I would say even 18, 19 to 25, this is when OCD usually first really hits. And the person is not equipped to handle it because they don't know, well, in my case, unless you've had a history of OCD within your family, if you did, you know how to handle it, you know what it is and all of that. But 99% of the people do not. And what happens is the person gets scared, and then they start going to compulsions. So the more compulsions they do, the more the brain thinks that the situation is important. Because the way the brain works is the brain thinks, okay, you're paying attention to a certain thing. Say, for example, like a lot of the times teenagers worry about like either like harm, OCD, like what if they do something wrong, those kind of things. Okay, so in that case, right, they start to worry about it. They worry, they worry, they worry. The brain thinks that, okay, he or she is worried about the situation. That makes the situation dangerous, even though it's not dangerous. But your brain doesn't see that. It only sees that the person is focusing their attention on this specific thing. But the person themselves, they get scared. So they're searching for information online. They're doing this, they're doing that, and they're making it more and more relevant. As they're making it more and more relevant, what happens is the situation gets worse and worse and worse in their head. And the brain starts to think of this particular thing, whatever it is, as being very monumental. And it starts finding it everywhere. And the person gets even more anxious. And the anxiety grows, the amount of compulsion grows. Now, sometimes I see that because if their OCD was very specific, the harm OCD is kind of more common and more generalized. But if their OCD was about, say, worrying about a specific situation and they're no longer in that situation, their OCD might actually go away. But that is not recovery, because if the OCD goes away, all it means is that the situation changed to another situation, and then the OCD will just attach itself to a new situation, because the mind still thinks that you're in danger, that the person is in danger, because the person was just in danger and then just removed themselves from the situation. So they didn't fix the problem. So in order to get over OCD, what you need to do is you need to control where your attention is at all times. Where is your attention now? Is it on your specific OCD topic? No matter what it is. Is it HIV? Is it harm? Is it homosexual OCD? It could be anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. All it matters is, are you focused on it? If you are focused on it, your mind thinks you are in danger because it's sending you anxiety to protect you from that danger. And when as long as you react and continue to react to it, so it becomes a snowball effect where you get a thought, you react with by paying attention, with fear, starting to research all of that. The mind sends you more thoughts. You react to more thoughts, it sends you more anxiety. So it becomes a snowball effect where the more you react, the worse your OCD gets. And this is why I think it's very important to I'm hoping that it's going to happen, that there's some sort of an education happening with this stuff, that if a person who is young is getting thoughts that are repetitive, that they don't pay attention to them. Because that, if you do it in the beginning, as soon as OCD hits, and if you control that, you can stop yourself from developing a full-blown OCD, But if you're already there, having OCD, you have to pull back your attention and focus your attention on something else. Your mind will always be looking for something. So the more you give it to look at other than your OCD thought, the better. So hobbies, going out, doing things, and don't be scared. I know you feel scared, but you have to overpower yourself and say, no matter how scared I am, I'm still going to go out and do this. Even if it goes against your OCD. Because OCD will tell you, well, no, you can't. You'll be in danger. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if you get OCD? You can't listen to any of it because it's running on an old program in your head. The old programming, which was that this situation was dangerous, I was paying a lot of attention and doing compulsions. Now your head is telling you that, no, this is still dangerous, when it's in reality, it's not. So to break free from OCD, you need to focus your attention elsewhere and break free out of these habits that you've created. And giving your mind a lot of other things to focus on will take the focus away from the OCD, which will greatly help. So to speed things up, you have to do additional exposures. Now, what is an exposure? For example, if you have, it depends on your type of OCD. If you have HIV OCD, for example, and you're afraid of blood, needles, everything, just walking through a hospital can be an exposure for you, Or if you're, for example, afraid of not washing your hands enough and getting some sort of contamination, washing them less, But then when you do this, your exposure doesn't mean success directly. When you're doing an ERP exposure, ERP stands, by the way, for exposure and response prevention. You guys, you're free to ask me questions in the end if I'm skipping something, because I'm used to doing it like a lot of talks on my channel, and sometimes I'm missing things, thinking that you've already heard it when you didn't. So if I missed something and you're not clear about something, please ask. But anyways, the ERP is exposure response prevention. So you're exposing yourself to what you're afraid of. For example, not washing your hands long enough, right? But you're preventing the response, meaning the response of fear. Your mind sees that you are not responding with fear, and because it sees that, okay, he did the thing, did the exposure, didn't respond with fear, and yet, look, still alive, still fine, nothing happened. And the mind starts to change. And it's not just on some sort of a metaphysical level, it's actually on a physical level where people, like in the hospitals, they do scans, and the brain chemistry is different. The brain doesn't get fired up because it's used to now handling this thought differently. But again, it takes time. And time, not in terms, a little bit in terms of like regular time passed, but also in terms of how many exposures to this particular stimuli did you have. So you have to make sure you are exposing yourself enough to the particular situation. So if you're always been afraid to wash your hands, not like to not wash your hands enough, and you've been over washing, and then you start to wash like most people wash their hands, you will get a lot of anxiety. You will get a lot of anxiety once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, 20 times, but you will not get a lot of anxiety 50 times. So the number is important. There's two ways you can handle exposure and response. So you can do it either naturally, like basically what I call accidental exposure, where, oh, I have to wash my hands, I'm going to wash my hands. It's kind of, it's not really an accident, but it's kind of like an accident because you're not actively saying, I'm going to pay attention to this. But there are times where it is pre-planned. You're saying, okay, today I am going to practice washing my hands a different way. And then you're doing it a different way, okay? And really, you need to get to that approximate number. I'm not saying it will take 50 times, but I'm saying that it will take a lot of times. So by multiplying the amount of times you are presented with this specific situation, the faster is your recovery. But again, only if you react correctly. If you react incorrectly, what happens is your anxiety will actually go up, because by facing the situation and then reacting with a lot of fear, you're actually saying to your mind that, oh my God, this is so dangerous. I'm reacting with a lot of fear to this. And your mind will say, oh, okay, it's dangerous. I'm going to give you more of these thoughts. So it's very important that when you have an exposure, that you are always ready to do the right thing. And accidental exposures are a little more difficult because when you're planning an exposure, you've planned it, you know what you're going to do, you know how you're going to respond. When it's like just kind of happens, it's a lot harder to do the right thing, but you just have to keep trying. And if you fall down, so to speak, and you do something incorrectly where, well, you failed today, okay? Reacted, went through the roof, basically, everything wrong. Doesn't matter. Tomorrow, or even not tomorrow, the next moment is a new situation and you can react correctly. So, because it's like what I always talk about with my clients is that there's a scale. So it's, you have to go to +1, +1, +1, +1. Then you had a setback, -1, maybe even another setback, -1, and then another plus, 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 plus of exposures. So you've done way more exposures correctly than you've done incorrectly, meaning that your brain has got a signal that, okay, 9 out of 10 times this person thinks that the situation is not like dangerous and I don't need to send anxiety. But sometimes this person still says that the situation is dangerous, so I need to give them anxiety. So your OCD will start to go down in its like in the level of anxiety that you're getting, in the level of stress that you're getting. It's going to decrease. As it decreases, you gain power back. As you get more power, it's easier for you to continue and to push forward, and your exposures are going to get better as time progresses. Usually people start out maybe it depends. People come to me with all types of OCDs and all levels of OCD severity. I had people who start out at just doing compulsions, like they're not doing the exposures correctly at all. And then as time goes on, they're doing 30-70, 50-50, and then they're doing 70% correctly, 30 incorrectly, 80% correctly, 20% incorrectly, and so on, until they don't care anymore. It doesn't bother them, and then they can go on. Now, a lot of it is about how much strength you have and how much effort you're going to be putting into it. And effort, I don't mean to just do the exposure, but effort to um, really kind of put it all out there and not allow yourself to react in the moment. And the more effort you put in, the faster you will recover. Now, there's also things that will help, such as not drinking caffeine. Guys, as you know, I am not a doctor, but I am someone who got over OCD and helped other people get over OCD. So I know a lot about this. And over the years, I know a lot about it. And I'm telling you, time and time again, I don't know what is in caffeine or whatever, but somehow it really affects the anxiety. So if you're drinking coffee, black tea, even green tea, I would drop it all, to be honest with you, if that's the situation, because somehow it really affects people. If you don't, then you're fine. But if you do, I would really suggest dropping it all. Also, you want to up your positive stimulation in your life. So if you like working out, that's great. Releases positive, like endorphins. Anything that really brings you joy, you want to do as much as possible, because when you're doing things that are making you happy, you're showing your mind that everything is fine. And this will help you recover much faster, because if your mind says, okay, well, if the person was very much in a dangerous situation, they wouldn't be all happy doing whatever they want to do, going to the gym or, doing their favorite hobby, whatever. They wouldn't be doing that. So it helps speed it up by you having more power to convince your mind that there's nothing wrong. So those things really will help. Also, you want to make sure you have good support when it comes to the people around you. Under no circumstances can you ask other people for reassurance. I'm telling you, I mean, you can, it's your life, you do what you want, but it ruins relationships. I've seen so many relationships get ruined because of OCD, because one person is asking the other person for reassurance, or one person is suspecting the other person and questioning them, whatever. Your OCD problem is your problem. And I can tell you that, having OCD myself, your partner, your parents, nobody can help you. If you're asking them for reassurance and they give it to you, they are actually hurting your progress, because they're helping your OCD progress by sending the signal to your, like, giving you reassurance, and you're sending a signal to your mind that I'm seeking reassurance. That means I'm in danger. That means I'm trying to protect myself by asking people around me, or by self-reassurance, meaning analyzing, all of this has to stop. You cannot get over OCD while analyzing the thoughts, seeking reassurance from others, seeking reassurance online, like through forums or research or whatever, or physical compulsions. So all of this has to stop. So the faster you stop it, and the more ERP you do, exposures, the faster you will recover. And like I said, like the nutritional aspect, the emotional aspect really helps the situation, because it makes you happy, even though you don't feel like it. And this is another good point too, that you have to know that you will get anxiety as you are doing these things. So it's not like, I did ERP, why am I still having anxiety? You're having anxiety because you did ERP once, but you've told your mind a million times that this situation is real and dangerous. So your mind still is on that fence. It's not on the fence of the ERP and this is OCD yet. So you have to accept the anxiety and just look at it as a symptom while you're recovering. When you have a cold, you have a runny nose, you might get a cough. When you have OCD, you'll have anxiety. This anxiety is based on the past of you seeking reassurance. It has nothing to do with the true situation. Moreover, I will tell you that the reason why OCD happens is because the part of the brain, the amygdala, that controls the anxiety has no way of telling the difference between the thoughts. So all it knows is it sends you some sort of random, mishmash of signals and thoughts. You reacted, so it's going to send you that same mishmash again, because apparently it's dangerous since you're reacting. It has no idea what it's sending you. So if it's not even able to judge it, you're definitely not in danger. You can't keep powering it up. And as soon as you stop powering it up, you will see it's going to lose it's going to start to lose power. Now, at that point, it's important to note that the OCD might switch. So as soon as you start taking power away, it might switch to a different topic. If it does switch to a different topic, it's important for you to catch it and say, oh, this is sounding a lot like my other obsession now, because now I'm worried for days about this, or over and over again about this. So you treat this new obsession the same as the old obsession, because your mind is still thinks you're in danger, right? So it's going to try to find danger in a different area. Like if you're not in danger here, maybe you're in danger there. So also look out for that. So if you're feeling anxious about anything and you know that nobody else would feel anxious about this but you, just drop it, pretend it didn't happen, and move on as much as you can. You will feel like you're faking it for a while. That's normal. Everybody feels like they're faking it, but it will stop. You just have to do it. It's like going through the motions. Act like nothing is happening. Go out with your friends. Do the things you want to do, and it will stop. But definitely don't give it any attention. So I hope this presentation kind of covers the basics of OCD recovery. You guys can visit my channel. I think they have it in the link channels. But it's, I want you guys to know that I am not the strongest person in the world, okay? But I recovered from OCD, and I helped other people recover. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me, anybody can do this. You just have to keep going until you fully recover.
Okay.
So I hope.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I think you wanted to ask some questions now. If I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, first we want to thank you for your great talk, and yeah, I agree with some of your points. Basically on all of your points, and especially when it comes to no coffee, because I heard about caffeine, and I personally experienced the anxiety triggered by caffeine. So to our viewers out there, no coffee, please, and exercise more does help a lot, because when you are exercising, your brain produce chemistry that triggers happiness and positivity. So exercise does help. So let's get to the Q&A session. Since we're just started, I prepared some questions for you. So first, can you tell me a little bit more about your program? I've been to your website, and I noticed you have books, you have you helped others to overcome their OCD. So can you tell us a little bit about your program?
Sure. So my program, again, as somebody who's had OCD, I knew exactly what a person needed to recover. And quite honestly, I'm not going to get into the doctor's thing, but there's not a lot of help out there. And most of the doctors don't know. If you have a doctor that specializes in OCD, you're extremely lucky. Hold on to them, because most people, they'll go to the doctor says, hello?
Hello? Yeah, it's
Okay.
still keep going.
Okay, sorry, you just clicked something. I wasn't sure. The doctor says that, oh yeah, I can help you, but usually it doesn't pan out that way. So make sure that your doctor knows what they're talking about. But I found in my personal experience that when it comes to OCD recovery, a person who's suffering with severe OCD really needs a constant help. They don't need a once a week session. I mean, once a week is better than nothing. But if they're in the severe type of OCD where they don't know nothing about OCD, they're doing compulsions 24/7, they need somebody there all the time to make sure to set them on the right path when they're going off of the path. So first, I have three different packages. I have a severe package, which is unlimited package, and we can talk every day. And so they start to understand how to deal, how to deal with OCD, how to do the exposures correctly as they're going through their day, what happens. And I'm available on chat as well through Skype. So they can message me anytime, and then I can respond to their message as they're having a problem, say in the supermarket, or as they're going about their day. So that's the severe package. Then for people who are kind of already know what they're doing, maybe they've already got the basics of it and they just want to continue, but have a little bit of support, I have the moderate package, which is once a week, and that's fine for people who can handle it on their own. They just need a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance once a week. And then I also have a single session. It's not really a package, but just a single session, which is if people have one, like just a few questions, or a lot of the times the partners or the parents will contact me to see how they should help their loved ones deal better and how they can help recovery. So those are the three packages I have. I also have a lot of books, and the books are dealing with specific types of OCD, because I find that there is a lot of theory where it comes to dealing with OCD. So a lot of the things are similar, but there's also a lot of difference between from obsession to obsession. So the person wants to know in general, and then the person wants to know the specific details. Well, how do I deal with my specific theme? So that's also available there. And that, by the way, what we're talking about is available on youhaveocd.com. I'm sure you'll have it below or somewhere there.
Yeah, I'll have it below in the description.
Yeah.
And second question. So what if like a patient can only do 80% or 70% right exposure, and they might get frustrated because they keep failing to expose themselves to the fears. So what's your advice for like, what if they can only do 70% right and they're getting frustrated?
Usually at this point, we try to figure out what is stopping them. And sometimes, say for example, if the source of their reassurance is their partner or their parent, then we talk with the parent and say, okay, in this case, you need to do this, this, and this. If, for example, they get anxious in a specific situation, such as when they're driving a car, they get anxious, we find ways to maybe have a note saying, just maybe in code, like if you don't want other people to know, you can have a note there saying, remember to react correctly, So something like that. If it's not working, then we try to do it where I am in, when they're in the situation, that I'm there with them through chat or through live feed or whatever. Also, another thing we do is sometimes the person kind of, 70% is not bad, because 70% means that you are doing more correctly than not. So that means your brain is already in the stage of recovery. It's just a very slow process. But it's not, I see a lot of people like that. And then if you're at 70, you will get to 80, and you will get to 90, and you will get to full recovery, So, but I think like sometimes I see people who can only do, say, 30, and they can't do any more, and they get frustrated. And at that point they think, well, maybe I should go and do medication. And I mean, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell them what to do either way, right? But in my experience, medication won't take away the symptoms. And I was on medication for a little while myself, and then I stopped taking it. Because I started to do the right things, and then I just didn't need it, and they fully recovered, right? So, but when they're doing like 30% correctly and then 70% incorrectly, and they just can't break it, nothing is working, then it, in my opinion, again, not a doctor, but in my opinion, it might be a good idea to see about something like that, just to ease off of the anxiety a little bit, because the medication will just knock it down a little bit. It won't take it away most of the time, but it'll just knock it down. And then the person will get to a more of a position of power, because they're not as scared, and then they can progress themselves faster. And then when they get to that point, like we talked about, to 70 or 80%, then they can drop the medication slowly. And it's, in that retrospect, medication is a blimp in time, because it's not a long-term, they're not using it as a long-term solution. But there are people that think of medication as their only solution for OCD recovery, and that's a really wrong outlook, and doctors do that too, where they just prescribe it and think that that's the only way you can recover, because to be honest, they haven't been taught anything else.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. And I guess that's all for this episode. We are 30 minutes right already, so thank you all for joining us this evening or morning or wherever you are. Uh, yeah, so we'll see you next time. And by the way, a side note, OCD Acceptance is launching a new Q&A system on our website. So if you want to ask questions, even anonymously, you can head over to ocdacceptance.com to learn more about our new Q&A program. And we'll have like 5 to 10 or even more professionals like therapists, doctors, to answer your questions. So if you are interested, please head over to ocdacceptance.com, and you can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And if you like this video, please click like button and subscribe to us for future events. So that's it for this episode, and thank you, Ali, for coming and sharing with us. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. See you next time.